Welcome to Requity Insights, a channel dedicated to documenting our journey to 100 world-class communities.
Welcome to today's episode of Requity Insights. My name is Velez, and I'm joined by my co-host and the CEO of the Requity Group, Marma. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of vertical integration in the commercial real estate space, what it means, how it provides us a competitive advantage in the market, and ultimately, what that competitive advantage means to our investors. Dylan, can you begin by explaining to me what vertical integration is and specifically what it means in the context of real estate?
Absolutely. So, vertical integration is, in the context of real estate, it's a business strategy where a company or a sponsor does not only own the property itself, but also is involved in a lot of the other activities such as the construction, the property management, the real estate development. And this allows the company to have more control over the entire process of creating and managing the real estate from start to finish.
Why is vertical integration a competitive advantage in the marketplace?
So in real estate investing, I'm a huge believer that vertical integration can be necessary if you want to be the best version of your investment company.
Yeah.
And I've learned this through trial and error. I've worked with third-party managers. I'm speaking mainly towards the property management side because currently we buy existing properties and we manage them in-house.
Yep.
And we also end up doing a lot of the smaller size construction projects in-house.
Yep.
And this for us has worked out really well. And I've also experienced working with third-party management where I've had a lot of challenges and issues that were difficult because when you are the sponsor, either if you're investing with your own money, it's you're looking for a certain outcome, and if you're taking on investor money, you have the responsibility to make sure that the project is a success.
Yeah.
And when you have this middle layer in between where you're making the investment decision, but then now you have a company that's ultimately responsible for the operational performance of the property, then that can create a little bit of a disconnect. Whereas when you are managing the property yourself, everyone likes to say that no one cares more about your money than you will. You're going to be able to put in the extra effort to be able to see things through. I think as a sponsor, it gives us a layer of transparency and visibility into what's actually going on site that we would never be able to have if we were just having a simple once a week touch base asset management call with our on-site property management. And by being able to have influence over the hiring process, right, making sure that the on-site community managers fit the brand and the culture that we're hoping to be able to promote as a company.
Yeah.
And to be able to test out new strategies by rolling out new marketing strategies and softwares, and being able to have, again, the visibility into all of the key metrics on site, that alone is worth it every single time. I always say that the property management is not a profit center for us. It's just a necessary evil that we feel is required in order for us to be able to get the best outcomes from our investments.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it's the only way to truly have the controls and to even be able to prove out your model, the things that are done in the underwriting. If you're not controlling that management aspect of things, then it's kind of in somebody else's hands, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, this isn't a control thing, and I'm all for delegating in the areas that you can delegate effectively, but it just depends on the asset class you're in,
Yeah.
right? If you're in 200 plus unit multifamily, there are some really, really quality third-party management companies out there that have been doing this for decades that are really top of line. But then as you go into smaller multifamily, or if you go into more secondary or tertiary markets, it gets harder to find that quality. And in a lot of the asset classes that we operate in, the alternative asset class space, there are just less options to choose from. And oftentimes, especially with the campground business that we're in, right? There's so much going on, and everyone has different views on how they want to run their campgrounds. That for us, it just made sense, and the asset classes that we're in to do this in-house and control the process. But it really depends on your lifestyle, your goals, your strategy. If you're looking at investing in real estate as a totally passive investment, and you choose to still buy the assets yourself rather than invest as an LP, then maybe using third party makes sense. So this isn't saying that you absolutely shouldn't do it, but we're just sharing why we believe it's a competitive advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you be able to explain to me how vertical integration plays into economies of scale?
Yeah, so when it comes to the being vertically integrated, it can be difficult in the beginning because you definitely need to achieve a certain level of scale to be able to support all of the core functions that you plan on managing in-house. And again, we're speaking mostly towards vertically integrated property management. But in the beginning, when you have one property, you're definitely not going to be able to afford full-time accountant. You're definitely not going to be able to afford regional manager because you just simply don't have enough income to be able to support the full staff. And early on, someone told me that had been in property management for many years. They told me that to get to where you really have true economies of scale this was in multifamily, but it applies in a lot of other asset classes. They said you really want to have at least 2,000 units. That way you can have a fully built team and have the economies of scale that allow you to really run the company most effectively. And I really took that to heart, and I believe that to this date, that in the beginning it can be tough because you just don't have that scale to be able to afford the support for the HR, for the regional management, for the accounting, and all the other functions that go into the business. And as you get bigger, you're able to just spread out more of your costs and run the business more efficiently after a certain level of scale.
From the investor standpoint, why do you think an investor would possibly want to work with a vertically integrated group versus one who outsources that resource?
Yeah. In some ways, you fall back on sort of the one throat to choke a theme, where instead of having this layer in between the property and the investment group, when you invest in a sponsor that is vertically integrated, then you know that success is going to be dependent on them and their ability to operate the property, and they have less excuses and less of an ability to just pass the buck and say, well, look, we did everything right, we found the right deal, the management company just fooled us and we chose the wrong management company, or there's no good management companies in this market and we've tried a few, right, and they just keep switching the management companies and passing the buck, so to speak. Yeah. So as an investment company, when we are managing the property, we can only blame our own management company, and that requires us stepping in, and because we have the ability to step in and change the way things are being done in our own company, we can help restructure things or set things up in a way that's going to get the best possible outcome. So I think it just falls back on our core value of extreme ownership and being able to truly own the outcome.
Getting kind of into the weeds on that, could you tell me a little bit more about the Requity Group's vertical integration strategy? Like what stages of the real estate development management processes are handled in-house by TRG?
Yeah, definitely. So as mentioned, property management is the bulk of what we do in-house. We have at this point around 50 or so employees on the property management team, between some of our offsite team and most of our on-site team, running the day-to-day community managers who are handling the leasing and the community standards and the administration on-site on property, and then lots of maintenance staff that are being able to help with either unit turns or groundskeeping or just general maintenance items, work orders that are arising. So that is the bulk of what we do in-house. But in addition to that, we also do a lot of our landscaping in-house. Landscaping costs have risen significantly over the last few years, and we found that we've been able to achieve some major cost savings for our investors by managing landscaping in-house. and we don't charge them anything extra for doing that. It just is something we take upon ourselves to be able to put in the extra work, to be able to save the money to have reliable landscaping done in-house, because it is a pretty big cost savings. And then similarly, we've done a lot of our construction projects in-house, where instead of hiring out a third-party general contractor and having, what could end up being, say, a 40% plus markup, we have a CapEx team, a construction team that we've had go in and handle the projects in-house themselves, allowing, again, that direct cost savings pass through to our investors, with us doing more of the hands-on construction management in-house. So that's a direct way that we're able to very visibly save the investors significant capital by being vertically integrated. And I think that would be difficult to do if we were using third-party management, because we can't just tell the third-party management company, hey, we know you guys don't usually do this, but can you do the landscaping in-house this time? Or can you fix up the bathhouse or do the renovations on that yourselves instead of hiring it out? And they're not going to do it, right? Because they have their system, and they're not really incentivized to do that, whereas we're incentivized to get the best ROI for our investors. We take it upon ourselves to do the extra work, oftentimes, to be able to get that direct cost savings, and I think that's because we have aligned interests.
Now that we've kind of touched on some of the positives of vertical integration, what challenges or obstacles has TRG faced being a vertically integrated group?
I think we'd have a lot more free time if we didn't manage in-house. But aside from that, I think in terms of the challenges are probably just the fact that you hear all of the noise, right? If you have third-party management, chances are there's absolutely every single day stuff going on your properties and issues coming up, and you're only maybe hearing about 10% of it. So you probably get this better feeling that things are going smoothly, just because the PM company is probably handling so much of the chaos behind the scenes, and then only bringing it up to your attention when there's major issues on a regular basis. Whereas with us, we have the luxury of being able to see everything. And that means that we see and hear all of the constant chatter and all of the constant chaos that is taking place on a regular basis. But again, that falls back on you eventually become okay with it, because you see that these are recurring things, and you've worked through a lot of these challenges once, many times before, oftentimes. And you just get a regular sense on what's standard for each property, right? How frequent do we have work orders for septic, or how frequent do we get people calling in the middle of the night, right? All these issues. So I think in many ways that's pros and cons, because if you're an investment company focusing on scaling your business, then a lot of your time does start to get drawn into more of like, how are we going to scale the property management company the right way to be able to optimize that company, versus just focusing on finding more deals and raising more money. That's definitely a challenge, and that's why I think in my view it's a necessary evil if you want to be the most effective operator you can possibly be. But I think you have to balance your, if you have more lifestyle goals and you own properties, then third-party management may be just a better solution for you. And then also, you mentioned economies of scale earlier. That can be challenging too as a new young group. For us, we definitely had to grow to a certain size to where we're able to really start to realize the economies of scale. Because in the beginning, you're wearing every single hat, right? We're wearing the hat of the bookkeeper, doing a lot of the accounting in-house. We're then doing a lot of the regional management, and doing a lot of the
investor stuff,
marketing, investor stuff, right? There's so many hats that you're wearing early on that it can be difficult, but that as you grow, I think you're able to achieve the economies of scale there as well. So I'd say as far as challenges go, that probably sums up the major ones.
Awesome. Do you have any final thoughts or insights on the value of vertical integration in real estate?
I think that everything in life comes from your personal experiences, and on paper, oftentimes there's not a real incentive to be vertically integrated. But I think that my own personal experiences led me to a conclusion that this is the best way to do it, given our goals of being able to serve our investors, optimize the returns, and being able to have influence over the process and the end goal. So I would just say, just keeping that in mind
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always easier to first truly grasp what it means to do everything. And then if later on you realize that you can pull back and look for that third party option in any of those categories or asset classes, you always can resort to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have a friend that once said you should manage your first property just so you learn everything.
Yep.
And then you should use third parties until you're at least 1,000 or more units, and then go back to doing it in-house, because then you have the skill to afford the team to do it well. And I thought that was pretty good advice.
Well, that kind of wraps up our conversation on the pros and cons of vertical integration. As always, thank you for joining us, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Requity Insights, hosted by our team at the Requity Group. You can find recordings of all shows along with our opt-in form to set up a call and view future investment offerings on our company website, therequitygroup.com, also listed in the show notes.